I was just about to film this intro when the doorbell went off, and it was the top layer of fabrics finally arriving. That's not this project though. The question I am here to answer is, can I make an entirely upcycled Cinderella petticoat? And the answer is not quite, but pretty close. This basket is leftovers from my wedding dress petticoat. This I bought at the secondhand craft store. This stuff down here I found on destashify.com. More wedding stuff. More wedding stuff. A lot of sheer purple curtains, and I have a whole bunch of white ones somewhere else. I'm gonna dye those blue. And then, this is round one of my wedding petticoat that I hated, but it is covered in pre-made ruffles, ruffled with fishing line on the hems. So I may take this apart and reuse it. The not 100% recycled part comes from, I couldn't find any recycled iridescent fabric, so I will be using a little bit that's new. Oh good, my bird assistants are here. I'm sure they'll help me sew. Right guys? Guys? This video got too long, so the other underthings got their own video. You should start there if you haven't seen it yet. And so finally I got to dye the white curtains a lovely Cinderella blue. And also aqua. Here are all of my dyed fabrics, and here is a dog in a cone. Good morning! It is ruffle day, and it would appear that I'm getting a cold, so I'm gonna take it easy and do a bunch of prep work today. And it took me nearly 2 hours to wind a few silver bobbins, so I gave up and went back to bed. Good morning. I sound ridiculous, but it is several days later, and my goals for the day include taking Emmy for something that resembles a walk because I've been getting winded walking to the bathroom, which just is such a joy. And finishing assembling the pattern that I started and then realized that it was not going to happen. This is a petticoat pattern by Bella May Designs, and I'm sure it's going to be wonderful and covered in germs. I can't catch my germs again. So I'm just gonna have a really great day today. I hope. I did actually achieve both of these goals, but it took everything out of me. Hi, Emmy. Done. I'm gonna go back to bed now, because I'm exhausted. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm feeling much better, so I think I'm gonna start sewing today. I probably could have started sewing yesterday, but I found the perfect laptop on Marketplace to replace the monster of an all-in-one PC that I had there for my crafting stuff that took up half of my desk, which was unacceptable. And that kind of took all the energy that I had. But today, look how gorgeous it is outside, and we got ice. Not great ice, because we don't really want snow on top of it when it's forming. But, you know, take what I can get at this point. It's not like it's the whole purpose for this project, but I have this idea where I want to get a picture of me twirling in this finished dress out on the ice, which requires A, ice, and B, enough time for me to finish this dress before the ice melts, which is probably the harder of the two. It's not like a strict deadline, but it would be really cool to get a picture out there. We are very popular with the ducks today. More bird friends to help me sew. I started by grabbing this bolt of organza that I got at my favorite secondhand craft shop for the first layer of the petticoat. You stink. I had to reschedule Emmy's grooming because I was trying to not share my cold. Do you know that you're in the way? She's a little bit dramatic. I pulled out my fanciest Cinderella mug and started cutting this petticoat. It soothes the sore throat. I laid out all the pattern pieces and grabbed some random pattern weights, which included my new-to-me laptop, which I'm thinking about calling the Craftinator because it looks nearly identical to my editing and designing laptop, and things were getting confusing. Hey, someone texted my pattern weight. Do you ever get the feeling that you're being watched? No? Just me? Good to know. This takes a lot more energy than you would think, and I am still sick, so I need a break. A new day with appropriate pajamas. This pattern is from Bella May's Designs, and it is fabulous! If you want to see a less chaotic video, definitely check out her videos. I marked the notches and labeled all the pattern pieces in my favorite heat erasable pen, and to keep those marks, I did not iron them before sewing. Don't hate me. I double-checked the seam allowance before starting my first seam. And if you're wondering why my wedding band turned purple, see above about not sharing my cold.
And I've been washing my hands like every 30 seconds, and it worked, and Patrick did not get my cold. I did iron this after sewing, including ironing the seam allowance to one side so I could do a flat felled seam. Usually you trim down one side of the seam allowance, but I wanted this to be as strong as I could make it while enclosing those pesky raw edges.
Do you like your new dog bed, Emmy?
I continued flat felling the rest of those seams until, like a true Cinderella, my little bird helper arrived.
My mother-in-law gave me a bird buddy for Christmas, and I love it. I put it on the mannequin, it fits great, and I want to cut out layer 2 and just stitch together now. But I think my bum pad is a little bit too aggressive. But you know what has a smaller bum pad on it? My wedding dress. So I may just snag that one and reuse it over here. This is not good. Yeah, so I think I'll fix that. And then get going on layer 2.
That one was too small, so like another fairy tale, I will have to make one that is just right.
This is much more of the shape that I was going for. I'm going to fill out a little bit here to give it more of the elliptical shape with my first round wedding petticoat.
The short story on this was that I made a whole petticoat for my wedding dress and hated it, but being me, I knew I'd repurpose it for something else. I whip-stitched the ruffle section to my hoop skirt.
That's not a dog bed. You're in the way again.
Time for round 2! It is made from longer parts of that same pattern, dog bed.
You gotta move again. Excuse me.
She is actually trying to tell me that she wants a walk. This is like how she stood on my wedding dress fabric so much that I embroidered her paw print on it. Just kidding, that was always the plan. I still have a cold. This time I marked the notches and the big zigzags for the godets to attach later, which means sadly this won't be pre-ironed either. And then I assembled it in the exact same way as earlier, except I ironed away some important marks, but luckily for me, it's winter outside. And they came back in the cold.
If Emmy looks a little bit like a wet mop, let's just say Emmy the snowplow had a wonderful morning.
And this is why I keep her fur short in the winter. I don't think I'll get any birds from my feeder today.
It is ruffle day! Finally! Are you excited, Emmy? I don't really want to spend my entire week making ruffles, so I'm probably gonna do it one layer at a time. Because making a million ruffles all at once is not my cup of tea. I have chosen the first 2 colors to be aqua and lilac.
Before I could get to cutting, I had a lot of ironing to do. And this is only the first wave of ironing flounces. Also, I used flounces and ruffles interchangeably, but technically these are flounces. Flounces are cut on a circle and ruffles are gathered rectangles. I used my tape measure to draw out big rings that are 6 inches tall, and while I didn't film it, I did cut this section here. No wasted fabric on my recycled project. Well, there was some wasted fabric, but I did my best to avoid it. I joined all of the aqua flounces into one mega flounce with French seams. I cut 4 aqua curtain panels and 6.5 leftover orchid organza yards. I am not going to do the math on how long each flounce is. I know it's going to be a lot. And then I got out my nemesis, the rolled hem foot. I hate it, but I had so many yards of hem to do, I thought I'd at least try it again.
I hate this foot.
And for added frustration, I am using silver metallic thread, which is pretty but delicate. And I added fishing line into the rolled part of the rolled hem foot. The fabric came out of the rolled foot part, and the metallic thread kept breaking. It was just a huge mess.
I'd say I'm mostly winning this war, but not entirely. I took a break to drop Emmy at the torture salon, otherwise known as the dog groomer. I decided my goal for this week is to finish layer 1 of this petticoat, which is going to be a tall order, but I'm also, on a schedule here. And so I really want to finish ruffling this and this today. This is going to take a while, so I'm just going to give you a ruffle montage, and you can add your own crying noises in the background as to how frustrating this is.
Spoiler alert, that did not happen.
I canceled this montage because this video is too long, but to summarize, I hemmed a lot of flounces, Emmy turned into a pizza, I hemmed a lot more flounces. I bought a new Cinderella mug, and I kept hemming flounces. Remember when I said I wanted to finish petticoat layer 1 in 1 week? That is how long it took to hem 2 flounces. So that did not happen.
My machine started not running smoothly, so I gave it a quick cleaning and oiling, and we are good to go again. The bum pad is now a dog bed. I am not surprised.
We just took an early afternoon walk, which did not quite go as planned because instead of romping in the woods, which is one of Emmy's favorite things to do, we walked on the road because it is super windy, which was a great idea because a tree fell next to the road, kind of near us. So that was a great plan, and also my poor bird buddy is having a rough day. But I will finish these 2 ruffles today or die trying. I am so close to finishing, but I am out of my last pre-wound bobbin. I have used up so much thread. I've lost my other one, but I'm not sure this is going to be enough.
It was not enough, but I found the other one and finished hemming the second flounce.
The ruffles are hemmed. I really would rather leave this machine set up as is and not swap out everything in it again, but you know what I happen to have? 18 sewing machines. They don't all work, some of them are just display, but I am gonna set up a different one for the actual ruffling of these ruffles.
Let's just say this was a fail and I ended up gathering them on my main machine.
We're having a bit of a whiteout here.
And with the faux bud in place, I leveled the hem and gathered the top of the flounces down slightly, which was way faster than hemming with the frustrating foot. I sandwiched the white base between the flounces for extra floof, but I think I'll be sewing them on the same side for the rest. The inner one just flipped upside down on the hoop skirt. After some petting, I cut 5 rectangles that were 1 yard by 58 inches and had some fun with this lovely fabric. It's so pretty! Eventually, I sewed the selvage edges together into a giant tube and stitched the seam allowance down. The selvage won't fray, and I just wanted the seams to be flat. I ironed the tube in half long ways, making things much easier later. Then it was time for more flounces! Yay! This time I picked iridescent and a dog. I mean blue. It has also been getting colder and colder and colder in my sewing room. I'm getting a little bit sick of flounce hemming, and I needed some inspiration on why I'm doing this project.
So my machine started squeaking. The manual says don't oil it, and if it starts making weird noises, stop sewing immediately and take it in for service. But I have a lot of ruffles left.
I didn't want to break my machine, so my backup machine it is. Or maybe this machine. If this flounce seems endless to you, it really was endless for me. It just goes on and on and on.
Well, this is a pretty picture, and unfortunately, I ran out of matching laundry baskets. Hi. You were very spoiled. Also, I'm pretty sure I just overheated my machines yesterday because they're perfectly fine today. And I had been running them at max speed non-stop for like 3 hours and an hour. Maybe I won't do that again.
I sewed the iridescent and blue flounces to one side of the giant tube, which also went on and on and on. Not even halfway through yet. Still not even close. I'm gonna have to think of something else to talk about besides complaining about flounces. It is very cold in the sewing room today. On the other side of the iridescent tube, I sewed blue and dark purple flounces, and if Emmy looks sad, you should know that she asked to join me in my chair instead of her heated pizza bed. Time to add the tube to layer 1! The line that I ironed into this earlier really helps now, and I got to work pinning this to the main petticoat. I had also marked 8 segments onto the tube when it was still flat and proceeded to ignore those. I did try to line up the bottom hems though. Gosh, this is starting to look lovely! I checked the hem level off of the floor, and look how fluffy!
Gonna have to hem that a bit.
So I chopped it off. I used a zigzag stitch to top stitch the pinned points. Look at the beautiful flounces! It's also huge, and this is only layer 1.
Alright, petticoat layer 1 is done! And that means it is time for layer 2, which requires a silver ruffle. And no assistant, apparently.
You know the drill here. I got this organza from destashify.com, and I'm also debating using that site to destash some of my fabrics. It's kind of a lot. There's been a slight delay in sewing today because the lake is frozen! I'll be back sewing later, but not right now. Eventually I trimmed the base for layer 2, and sewed the silver and orchid flounces on, but I was definitely still dreaming of skating outside. Our house doesn't have much of a backyard, but in the summer and the winter we have a huge back lake. It is one of my favorite things. The second part of layer 2 is made up of 15 godets sewn to the base. I attached all 15 together with French seams and made sure that I didn't accidentally make a Mobius strip. Let's just say that I continued making flounces, but it looked the same as the ones I made previously, and it took many, many days, and I'm sick of filming it. I sewed purple and blue flounces to the bottom of the godets, and let me tell you, this layer was huge. I'm taking a break from the never-ending ruffle sewing, and unfortunately the lake melted last week. It was like 50 degrees and rained many inches. I don't know how many exactly, but my garden is underwater again. That's kind of a bummer because I really like the ice. Break is also me avoiding sitting there sewing more ruffles. It's really kind of wearing on me. I'm starting to lose some bits of sanity because all I'm doing is sewing ruffles, which is why I didn't want to do them all at once because I would have just lost all of my sanity. But this is not much better. Emmy's having a good time though. Eventually I started up again and I just noticed the squeaker that Emmy left in the pot. She does have a history of throwing things, but it's usually rubber ducks and aimed at me. Look at how big this is! I pinned each godet to the marks I made earlier on layer 2, and yes, we are still on the second layer. I didn't line the points up exactly with the marks as I skipped making the hoop skirt, but I made sure that the hems were even. Also, I learned later to use safety pins for this. This petticoat is getting big! I stitched the points down, but around an inch away from the edge so that I could fold the edge over and top stitch enclosing the raw edges. This pile is getting so pretty, but I'm not sure how I'm going to fit the upper godets with the corresponding flounces on too.
This is getting too big. I took a little time off to make this pretty roughly dress for my honeymoon, but I finished it last night, and my excuse for not working on the Cinderella ruffles is now over, so I'm going to get back to work on this. Next up is the upper level godets for part 2.
While I do all of those godets again, but higher up, let me entertain you with the story of my latest frivolous purchase. So I bought Emmy a ball pit, and oh my gosh, was that an excellent purchase because she just loves it. She spends time every day digging in this ball pit. She's such a happy dog. She's such a spoiled dog. Let's check out my bird buddy. I've gotten a few cardinals, a blue jay, a Carolina wren, and what kind of a bird is that? Oh, it's a chipmunk. And this squirrel is definitely a bunny. I'm skipping over a lot here, but I just wanted to say that this whole petticoat took me a solid 3 months of work, and none of my animal buddies helped one bit. No, not even you. Or you. Or you. I'm looking at you, buddy.
Layer 2 is done! And I had an idea because we're going on our honeymoon in a week, so I will not be able to sew. For that week, but I want to cut the next 3 layers out and let them hang next week so that while we're gone, the bias can stretch and then it'll be all ready to go when we get back. So I'm going to do that tomorrow.
I tried everything on, starting with my wedding bum pad, hoop skirt, other bum pad, all of layer 1, all of layer 2, oh, and the shoes! I gave it a twirl and realized that it was lopsided, so I spent the next day fixing that. But just look at all the beautiful flounces! Also, I added a twill tape waistband for layer 1 and also one for layer 2. Time for the last 3 layers! And they are basically all the same except for the length, so let's power through them. This video is long enough already. I cut 7 panels from blue for the 5th and top layer, orchid for the middle layer and middle length, and ivory for the shortest and innermost layer. I hung them all up so that the bias can stretch while we are away on our tropical honeymoon.
Good morning! I am back from St. Lucia on our wonderful honeymoon. And I feel like I got a bit of a tan despite my best efforts, but I will check that in editing. My last 3 layers have been hanging for a week and a half at this point, so they are ready to be stitched up.
I stitched all of the skirt panels together with French seams, and stitched little godet triangles at the waist, pivoting at the point and stitching back up. I stitched the seam allowance down to reduce fraying, and ta-da! The ivory layer is done. Again for the orchid, and one more time for the blue. My goal of filming out on the frozen lake melted by leap day, so I switched to a spring hobby. I trimmed the white layer and attached blue and silver flounces, and we are close to the end here, folks. The orchid layer got some aqua flounce and some dramatic side-eye, purple, some of which ended up being an actual ruffle, like gathered rectangle, because I only had strips of fabric left. Also, I moved the opening to the side for these layers. The bum pad kept poking out through the back opening. It is still mid-March, but Emmy was enjoying the spring weather on her sewing balcony. She's very spoiled. Final layer time, and we are almost done. It has been 3 months of just this petticoat, and it's giving me wedding petticoat flashbacks. I chose iridescent for some sparkle and blue for the last 2 flounces. I am so ready for this to be done, and so is Emmy. But I was short on this flounce by 2 feet. Sigh. I used some pretty purple ribbon for the waistband for all 3 of these layers and added little hearts, and this is finally done. Time for the reveal. Just kidding, it was really more like this. Emmy has a ball pit ball, so I guess I know what's on her mind. Hey, Em. Do you have a ball? Gimme. That is the petticoat and corset and bloomers all done. And if you want to see how the rest of the dress goes, then subscribe. And if you enjoyed this, likes are always helpful. And stick around for the next adventure of this crazy sewing project. Bye, everybody!